If you've played games like Diablo or watched modern horror movies, you know the name Baal. He is consistently depicted as a demonic entity, the Lord of Destruction. This image of a hellish commander comes from the 1818 Dictionnaire Infernal, a text categorizing underworld spirits. Demonologists assigned him a grotesque anatomy to separate him from humanity, giving him 3 heads, a man, a cat, and a toad, resting on spider legs. But before he was banished to the infernal hierarchy, this figure we recognize as a demon was the ancient world's equivalent of Zeus or Jupiter. The physical truth of this god isn't found in horror fiction, but in Paris. His original identity is preserved as an artifact inside the Louvre. Carved in the 15th century BCE, the limestone Baal with thunderbolt stele serves as the definitive portrait of the leader of the Canaanite pantheon. Contrast this athletic, vigorous warrior with the spider-legged creature from the 19th century. This is the record of how a revered savior was culturally mutated into a boogeyman. To understand Baal's true role in the Levant, we have to translate the symbols of power carved into this limestone. This relief shows the storm god in an active posture. His belted kilt and upright stance identify him as a warrior king, a protector of his people. The helmet is topped with bull horns. In the ancient Near East, these were markers of divine strength and agricultural fertility, rather than precursors to satanic imagery. He was called the Rider on the Clouds, and he holds a raised battle mace in his right hand to show his command over the weather. In his left hand, he holds a lightning spear. If you look at the shaft, it takes the form of a sprouting plant striking the earth. This shows the storm not as a disaster, but as the source of growth. These symbols show that Baal was engineered by his worshippers to be a hero. He was the force that ensured human survival by bringing the water needed for life. Unlike the river-rich valleys of Egypt or Mesopotamia, the coastal Levant had no major irrigation systems. Its agriculture was entirely rain-fed. The Baal cycle myths from Ugarit describe his conquest of the sea. He is the storm god who physically subdues the chaotic waves to establish order for maritime merchants and sailors. The myths also record his seasonal battle against Mot, the god of death and drought. When Baal wins, the rains return. When he loses, the land withers. Worshipping this god was not a choice made for abstract theology. It was a requirement for survival in a region where a dry season could mean the end of a civilization. As the Phoenicians traded across the Mediterranean, his worship spread as far as Carthage, where he was known as Baal Haman. He commanded total devotion. His worshippers offered libations, burned incense, and performed ritual sacrifices to secure the moisture they depended on. At the Carthaginian Tophet, archaeologists have found thousands of votive markers. These stones record the offerings made during times of extreme crisis, when the survival of the city was at stake. The power Baal held over life and death made him an influential figure across the ancient world and a primary target for rival religions. As the Israelites began to champion strict monotheism, they came into direct collision with the cult of Baal. Part of the problem was linguistic. As this concordance shows, the name Baal was a title that meant lord or owner. It was a direct competitor to the titles used for Yahweh. The Hebrew Bible records a contest between the prophet Elijah and the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. It is framed as a test of whose God can actually bring fire and rain, ending with the total defeat of Baal's followers. This narrative campaign stripped Baal of his historical function. By portraying him as a god who could not answer his followers, the writers broke the connection between the storm god and the survival of the harvest. By the Middle Ages, the transformation was complete. Christian demonologists took the names of vanquished pagan gods and placed them into an infernal hierarchy. The life-giving Baal was localized into the hoarse-voiced Baal of the Goetia, a king who ruled over 66 legions of spirits. The ancient symbols were twisted. The horns that once represented the strength of the bull and the fertility of the land were rebranded as the jagged symbols of evil. When we see these creatures on our screens today, we are looking at a total inversion of history. A deity once thanked for the bread on the table has become a face for our most enduring fears.